Bank of America new no money down mortgage loan, the truth. Did you know that Bank of America has this new loan that doesn't require money down? They don't look at your credit score. They don't require closing costs and all this other crazy stuff. Well, did you also know that I used to be a mortgage underwriter at Bank of America and even a manager? So I know way more about this than anybody else. Well, it's all true. And in this video, I'm going to share with you some insider secrets on what's really going on with this new Bank of America mortgage loan. Let's go.
Noel. Yeah, she can fix that. If you gotta get it done, all you need to do it better. Well, she can fix that. Yeah, she can fix that. Investment to get back, trying to get a big stack. She can fix that. Let's fix that.
I'm going to share with you the real deal on this new Bank of America mortgage loan from top to bottom. I'm going to share with you an insider secret that only a former Bank of America employee could ever tell you. And I'm going to give you the exact plan on how you can get approved for this new loan. First, let's talk about the what. What is this new Bank of America no money down, no credit score requirement, no down payment, new loan that everyone is talking about? Well, it's actually true. Bank of America got into some trouble with a few lawsuits, and they have come up with a new initiative to increase home ownership in the Black and Latino communities. They have created a loan program where it does not require a down payment. They will give you a grant for the down payment. They will not rely on your credit score, so there is no credit score requirement. Like usually you need a 580 score or a 620 score or a 640 FICO score. Well, this mortgage loan does not have a credit score requirement, and this loan does not require you to come up with closing costs. Closing costs are usually the lender's origination fees, their underwriting fees, their processing fees, and loans associated with them processing your mortgage application. Well, in this situation, Bank of America has decided not to have those fees on this loan program, and it is all the buzz that everyone is talking about. So let me get into some details about this new loan because it is very interesting, and I have some insider tips as a former Bank of America underwriter and an underwriting manager who can tell you all about what they're really doing and why this really came about, and if you should go for this loan at all or try something different. First things first, if you want more money for your business, you're going to need a business checking account. North One offers business checking accounts that you can get set up in less than 3 minutes, and you can do it all online. All you do, you open up your browser. You're going to type in North One. Very simple. You're going to then log in and register an account. Opening a new account. As you can see, I'm clicking here. I'm showing you different ways on how you can easily open a new account for yourself and for your business. Your business is going to have to be registered with your state, your Secretary of State, because you actually need a business. Once you have your account all set up, you will see that having a business checking account with North One is amazing and simple. You can actually integrate all of your different merchant processing accounts. For example, if you have PayPal or Stripe, you can integrate that into the account, and those deposits will go directly into your North One account, and then you will not only have statements from your merchant processor like PayPal, Square, or Stripe, you'll also have business checking account statements from North One that you can just pull down digitally. You can just download them, create a PDF of them, and now you have all of your statements in one place. Check out the link below at North One and get your business checking account today. This way you can use your business checking account statements, and many lenders will lend to you with just that information. Get your business checking account today with North One and get this debit card that you can use anywhere in the United States absolutely free. Now back to this video. This new loan from Bank of America is called the Community Affordable Solutions Loan. That's what they're calling this loan, and you will see articles talking about this new loan program. Well, let me tell you some of the history on Bank of America and some of these loans. Bank of America is notorious and has literally been sued in civil lawsuits for not lending to enough people in the Black and the Latino communities. In fact, home ownership is about 80% in the white community, and it's about 47% in the Black and African American community, and it's closer to 51-52% in the Latino community. So when you're looking at the statistics of home ownership in America in some of these communities, it's very evident that the Black community has definitely been left behind and is not reaching some of the home ownership goals. Now, you know that I am a real estate millionaire today, but I did not start there. So I can tell you that home ownership and owning real estate is the #1 way to wealth, and owning a home is a very important of your economic plan. It is a great way to build equity, to gain appreciation, build your net worth, and take advantage of leveraging your property to get more properties or borrow money against your property. Not owning properties has been a definite detriment to many communities, especially the Black community. Now, we're not going to get into race because Noel does not really get into those type of conversations, but I'm just going to give you the stats on it because obviously I identify as a Black person. We all know that statistically speaking, there was a period in America where people of the Black community could not purchase homes. In fact, during some of the 50s and the 60s, it was prohibited, and many Black people would have to use white people as straw buyers to ever purchase a home. This created a big gap in the financial gap between whites and Blacks in America because, as we know, that home ownership is a great way to build equity, and instead of renting from someone else, you're literally building equity in a property and you can sell it for lump sums of cash. Just as an example, I recently sold a house and I made $80,000 profit after owning the home for just 2 or 3 years. Now imagine if there was decades and decades where I was prohibited from doing that. Would I be the millionaire that you see today? Probably not. So when you look at today and some of the economic gaps and the disparities between white people and Black people, there are some economic policies that happened in the past for decades that caused this economic gap, and there weren't many things that were done to actually close that gap. Well, add on top of that some of the policies that happened in the 70s and the 80s with redlining, where literally Bank of America and banks like that would not lend in certain communities. They literally did something called redlining, where they would draw a red line around certain areas in certain communities, and they would not lend in those areas because they considered it too high of a risk. Well, statistically speaking, those were all Black and Latino and minority areas. So not only were Black people prohibited from buying homes for decades in America, then once the laws changed and they could buy homes, they were not able to buy homes in their own areas. So this only added to the fuel and caused even more economic disparities between whites and Blacks in America, and now even Latinos. So let's fast forward to today and some other things that have happened in even more recent times, as recently as 2014. Bank of America was literally sued in a civil suit for not lending to people in Black and Latino cultures. They literally looked at some of the numbers from the federal government. On a federal application, when you are applying for a mortgage loan, it asks your demographics, and they found that statistically speaking, Black, African American, and Latino populations were declined at a rate almost 3 times that of white borrowers with similar credits and similar income profiles. It really just did not make sense. In fact, I used to work at Bank of America as a mortgage underwriter, and some of the things that I understood about the Black community and how they saved money, some of their saving patterns, even some of the distrust in banks, they would not let you have money that wasn't in a certain account, or they wouldn't allow Black and Latinos to do some of the things that they did with saving money through partners and SOSAs, and some of those things that are very prevalent in some of those communities to save money. The banks did not allow those savings and those assets to ever be included in the mortgage process. Additionally, Bank of America and a lot of the big banks were pushing people into high-risk subprime loans when they qualified for government and conventional loans. This was because many of the Black community and the Latino community just were not educated in the mortgage process, and the loans, like subprime loans, for example, paid out at a higher rate. So loan officers were incentivized to push people into higher risk loans that had ARM payments, which are adjustable rate mortgages. They had balloons on them, and they were just riskier loans with much higher rates that they did not need to get anyway. Again, adding to all of the things that happened in the history, then adding to it the discriminatory practices, and then adding to it subprime mortgages, it was a disaster for many in the Black and Latino communities, and something really needed to be done. So Fast forward to today. Bank of America obviously is trying to change their reputation and try to help fix this income gap and this wealth disparity gap because they are the largest bank in all of America. In fact, most of the mortgages in America are through Wells Fargo, Bank of America, and Chase Bank. They're the biggest mortgage lenders in America. And unfortunately, they are not lending to people in these minority communities at the rate that they should. It really just doesn't make sense when you look at the numbers. Like I said, as a former underwriter at Bank of America, Wells Fargo, and a vice president at Chase in the mortgage divisions, I can tell you from experience, there was a real gap in how some of those communities were looked at, how they were qualified, and many of the traditional ways that they saved money were excluded from the process altogether. Add to it not being educated on the full mortgage process, it really just made situations worse. So I love the fact that you're watching this video because I'm going to educate you on this mortgage process and teach you how to navigate it and how to get the best mortgages for your situation because you can do it and it's worth it. Home ownership is the #1 way to build wealth in America. So let's get to that part. Whoa, I know I said a lot there. Comment below. Let's have a real conversation about this. Like I said, I don't usually like talking about race and having those race conversations, but this is truly a mortgage program for people of a certain race, and it's even for certain communities in certain areas that they're talking about lending in. Let's talk about it below because I have even more information that's a little bit sketchy on this, and I want to have a real conversation on this. Comment below. Let's talk about it. So the next thing that you need to know about this new mortgage loan is not only is it designed to help the African American, Black communities, and the Latino communities, it is not just for African Americans or Latinos. Banks are not able to discriminate you for a mortgage based on your race. So all races, all nationalities are able to apply for this loan. However, this loan is designed for certain geographic areas in Black and Latino predominant neighborhoods. That's a part that's really different. It's almost the opposite of redlining, where they would redline an area and say that you couldn't borrow in that area. Now they are making this loan specific to those certain areas and to specific communities. So let's talk about what some of those communities are. 6 of the areas that they are trying to focus on is Charlotte, North Carolina, Dallas, Texas, Miami, Florida, Los Angeles, California, and Detroit, Michigan. Those 5 areas are 5 areas that they specifically outline, and there are definitely more. Those are predominantly minority areas that are not seeing the same numbers of white homeowners. So they are specifically trying to put money into those areas so that minorities can own properties in the communities that they live in. This seems like a great idea on the surface. We'll see how it turns out. But unfortunately, I don't necessarily like that idea because you're making it specific to where I have to live. And like I said, this is not just for people of minority races. So basically, you are putting money into those areas, but it is not just for Black or Latino people. So other races, other nationalities now have access to all this money in those areas. And most likely, they're probably going to be the ones to benefit and start owning real estate in some of these really highly appreciating areas. The 5 areas that I named, Charlotte, North Carolina, Dallas, Texas, Los Angeles, California, Miami, Florida, and Detroit, Michigan, are big cities. These are urban areas with populations that are growing and growing. Therefore, that real estate is going to be very valuable. So yes, Black and Latino people should definitely be trying to buy those properties, force appreciation by fixing those properties up. But at the same time, the mortgage process can be very daunting, even taking away the fact that you don't have to come up with closing costs, a down payment, or use your credit score. You're still going to have to qualify for these mortgages, and there's still going to be a rigorous process to get through it. So let me talk about how to get through this process, how to get approved, and if this is the best thing for you, even if you don't want to live in those areas. Let's talk about that for a second. So the reason that Bank of America has stated they are trying to do this new type of loan, and the reason why they are pumping this money into this loan program, is they are trying to close the wealth disparity gap, especially when it comes to home ownership. So they're trying to pump money into these specific areas. But like I said, as someone that invests in real estate, I'm not necessarily that happy about you have to buy in a specific area. Although I do like that those 5 areas that are named are really highly appreciating areas, and they're seeing some of the best appreciation around the country, except for Detroit, Michigan, just being honest. I absolutely love Miami. I own property in the Charlotte area. Dallas, Texas. You guys know I used to live in Dallas, and those markets really are good for real estate. So should you buy properties in LA, for example, Los Angeles, California, Dallas, Texas, Charlotte, North Carolina? Absolutely. Should you apply for this mortgage? I absolutely do think that you should. If you are thinking that you want to buy property and you live in those areas and you want to live in those properties, because again, it has to be a primary residence. You do need to live in the home. You cannot buy this as an investment property. Then this is a great opportunity for you. Bank of America has offered loans like this before through a program called NACA, NACA, and you can go to that website and see. Bank of America was involved in several lawsuits even in the 90s, and they had to set aside $4 billion to lend loans that had no mortgage insurance, had no closing costs, and didn't require a credit score. But unfortunately, those loans took a very long time to get approved, and most of the time, if you went to a seller and on your contract you were going with a NACA loan or one of these Bank of America loans, they did not accept your offer because they knew it would take you 3 months to get through the mortgage process, and other offers were probably going to get accepted over yours. So this can be problematic if you're in a very competitive market, which of course Miami, Charlotte, Dallas, Los Angeles, and Detroit are. So there's going to be some navigation that you're going to have to do with this. But I definitely think this is worth it. If you are not a homeowner right now and you're looking to get your first property, you will be crazy not to at least apply and take advantage of this. Even if the process was a little bit daunting, you're saving so much money with a fixed interest rate because, again, they're not allowed to do adjustable rate mortgages like I said that they were doing before with those subprimes. Now they have to offer you a fixed rate. They have to do it without a credit score requirement. They have to give you a good loan that makes sense for you. But again, you have to be in those certain areas. So if you live in those certain areas or you want to buy a home in those areas, absolutely take advantage, apply for this loan. I strongly suggest it. I definitely think home ownership is one of the most important things that you can do to build your wealth. So go ahead and apply. And again, let's have a conversation about that below, because I know many people in the African American community and the Latino community are going to be very skeptical about Bank of America. Like I said, they have a very checkered past with how they have treated people of minority descent in the past. So I say, yes, be skeptical, but at the same time, be optimistic. You can be skeptical, you can have your questions, but definitely be optimistic and move forward. They're doing this for a reason. These are still mortgages and they're still going to make money off of them. If you've ever seen a mortgage loan truth in lending statement, you will know that even if you're buying a house that's like $200,000, by the time you're done paying for it 30 years later, you've paid nearly $1 million for that home. So they're definitely going to make money on these loans. It's definitely in their best interest to start getting more people to buy homes. I have a whole video teaching you on what's going on in the market. And so this is basically an opportunity for you to get what you want and for Bank of America to make money too in the process. So go ahead, check it out. Let's have a conversation about it below and let's see what happens. So you can get my book, Real Estate Millionaire Secrets, absolutely free. Just go to noellsfreebook.com. My book, I poured my heart into, and I teach you exactly how I went from my parents' basement, broke, bankrupt, bad credit, no job, and how I made lots of money in real estate and became a real estate millionaire today. You can get this book absolutely free. You just cover the shipping. Go to noellsfreebook.com and get your copy today. I just want to make sure that you have all of the resources, all of the tools, and all of the knowledge that you need to be successful. This is Noelle, to your success.